Go live with us, and Lauren, you come in and pop in.
She
Live.
said, yeah, okay, we are live. Yeah. Laura just dropped off. An appliance repair person showed up. So this is real estate life, Tom.
Hello. This
Yeah.
is. I just got a text from a tenant right as we were starting, so it's part of
Uh,
it.
Good times. Good times. Well, today, Lauren of Adulting is Easy will be joining us shortly, assuming the appliance situation works itself out. But yeah, I can still hear her. Let me
Yep.
mute
Mute
her.
her.
We're talking team building today. You and I often talk about the importance of you can't do everything yourself. You're going to need extensions of a team. Like, don't try to be the handyman, the plumber, the electrician, the leasing agent, the roofer. Like, you have to build a team to.
I learned this the hard way. I
Did
tried
you?
to do it all. Yeah, I tried
Yeah.
to do it all at the beginning because I didn't have money for a team. Oh, look, Lauren's joined us again. Hi, Lauren.
Hey guys, sorry
Welcome
about that.
back. I heard the washer's not working. You forgot to mute.
I know. Sorry guys, sorry about that.
Aloha from Hawaii. We've got our faithful Hawaii tuning in. Hello to you.
Mark.
But yeah, I tried to do it all at the beginning, and I tried to do it all for a couple years because I didn't have the money and I didn't know any better. And there were times where I'd be spending more money than if I had someone come in and do it for me. So I learned by trial and error. And that's, I bought a house in Cleveland with no team. I struggled all 10 years I owned it. I lost money when I sold it, and I did it because I didn't have a team in place. And that's always when people are like, well, why won't you go back to Cleveland? I didn't have a team. I didn't have someone to help with evictions, someone to do clean out, someone to check on the property properly. And I was paying incorrect people or people that weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. And it was just the lack of knowledge. So I think that this is a important topic that all three of us know the importance of. And all three of us can speak to like who we want on our team, why we want them on our team, and how they've helped us get to where we are today.
Yeah, I made the same mistakes. I think it's a broke person's mindset, because when I got started, I was broke, and for a long time. And it was, I don't have the money, so let me learn how to, YouTube how to fix this water heater. Let me YouTube how to fix this refrigerator, whatever. And the hours that I put into trying to teach myself to do it, and then the trips to Home Depot, multiple trips, and then I don't have the tools once I have the part, and just the stress and the frustration, and then I end up breaking something else because I was trying to fix this, and then it just spirals out of control, and then it's a Band-Aid, and then what I've learned over 20 years of real estate investing experience is hire a professional. It's going to be more upfront, but it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run because they're going to do it right. They're going to typically tell you, this needs to be looked at, or, let me fix XYZ while I'm here. It'll give you an extra 5 years. And it's tough to do that when you don't have money, but it is the lesson I've learned over and over again. And now I leave it to the professionals.
100%. Lauren?
Yeah, I mean, if you just think about the number of tools that you need for certain things, and my husband assures me we've almost got all the tools we could possibly need. And the next time this happens, we'll use this $300 tool again. But in the meantime, you're storing it in the shed and you're doing all this stuff. So, I mean, you could save. I mean, I don't think I'm exaggerating. It's like $4,000 or $5,000 you can save on tools by hiring people.
I just had to buy a $27 certain tool so we could drill into this certain tile up in Ohio. So I know that. And that was actually my contractor buying that. Well, I was paying for it and he was buying. It was for him to use to do the install.
I actually got rid of all my tools just so I wouldn't try to attempt anything. Like, I'm just getting rid of all the tools, and now I have to outsource it, and I'm so much happier for it.
My husband is an engineer, and that's like his thing. Is like,
Yeah.
he wants to know how it works, and he wants to take it apart, and he wants to fix it. So, for the most part, for smaller stuff, we, but not like the trades, not for like electrical, plumbing, roofing, stuff like that. But anything kind of small, he literally likes doing it. But we have a team for all of those other things.
So
who's on your team?
Yeah. So yeah,
You want me to
let's
start?
yeah, let's start. Let's start about how to find that first person on your team, and who should that first person be, Tom?
Gosh, I did this all backwards, and I mean, I built my team off of the mistakes that I was making, and I can tell you one of my favorites that I learned in both states was having a good title company. Because I had one in Ohio when I was buying a property, and they're like, we can't write anything on this, we can't do anything with this, but we're going to charge you $600 for even looking into it. And I'm like, so you're charging me $600 for doing absolutely nothing for me? This is awesome. And I ended up paying the $600, got it transferred over to a real title company, a local title company who handled the house when I bought it the first time. This is for a refinance, which was, again, nonsense that this other title company was doing this. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to pay another $600 extortion fee for you to release my file. And I paid it. I didn't blast them like I wanted to on social media, but I will never do business with them again. And I actively encourage my clients to avoid them. And I actively encourage anyone who's buying or selling to avoid this company, because they will nickel and dime you over and give you nonsense reasons why they couldn't get it done. So title company in both states, I have really good title companies that I've worked with that have all my paperwork, that it's just no nonsense when I send in a contract. And that's huge, because title companies slow it down. They can make the process harder than it has to be. And at this point, I work with the same lenders in both states, and these title companies are, familiar with that process. And it's not, is it going to close? Will this happen? It gets done when I go to these. So on my team, my title companies in both states are super important, because I don't want to pay an excess and fee. And you know what? They're not the cheapest, but they're quick, they're responsive, and they can get it done. And that's really key with me, because I don't want to be sitting in limbo for months at a time. And I've had that in both states with different title companies, when sellers are like, we can only use this one. And
How do you know how would you find, like, say you're Tom, you got to invest in San Francisco tomorrow. Like, how would you go about finding a good title company?
I would start by skewering the Bigger Pockets web forum and start reading, and who are they using to close their deals. And then I would probably try and join the Facebook San Francisco real estate group. And then I would look in there, because some of them lurk in there, some of them comment in there. And I mean, because people will, I know in my two specific groups, people ask title questions and can I do this kind of deed all the time? And the people who answer are usually like the attorneys or the title companies. So I would go there as my second. And then word of mouth is huge. So realtor is going to give you a referral, but how long is that? How many deals has that realtor closed with that company? So I don't just go off of referrals. I don't just go off of reviews, because those can be faked. We talked about this recently. And I want to see actual, who's commenting, who has that track record to back up what they're saying. And that's how I'm going to pick.
Your first team member is a title company.
Well, I got a general contractor by default. He was outside my, he was fixing the boiler for the whole complex that I lived in. And that was like my first main person, was my contractor here. He is licensed in HVAC, but he does kind of everything. And he was out there fixing it. And I'm like, how much to do this and how much to do that? And right at the same time, I had bought my first rental in Dallas. It was door number 4. And they had gotten to a certain point. I kept paying them. And then he's like, I can't do anymore. And I'm like, oh, great. You've taken all my money and I'm getting half the job. So I had just gotten burned. So that's how my first person was this general contractor who does air conditioning, which you need desperately in Texas. But a lot of times, especially in the last couple of years, if you don't have a title company who can get the job done, there's no point in getting that contractor first, because you can't get it over the finish line. And that's happened a few times where we've been close and they can't clear it, can't get through title insurance on it, can't get the property over the finish line. So that contractor is going to be standing there doing nothing if we can't get it to where we actually own the property.
So in Florida, the seller picks the title company usually. So how do you get around? Is that not the case in Ohio?
I think
and Texas?
it is. And I just go in with, like, when I wrote offers on the 2 that I just recently bought, I just filled that right in and explained to them. I said to the ones, because I was dealing directly with the sellers, not with a realtor, but even my realtor you can take her something and she'll be like, oh, Tom wants to close here. without me even saying anything, because of she's had the bad experiences too, where stuff doesn't close on time and this and that, and that's up in Ohio. But I went to the sellers and I explained, I'm like, I've had a lot of problems here. I've had issues here. I've been through most of them in both in Dallas and in Ohio, and this is my number one in each state, and this is why. And typically they can get it done.
I think what Lauren's really saying is that you're wrong, Tom, and I agree with her.
And that, if you want to say that, that's fine. I'm wrong all the time. I just had an argument right before we went on with my partner about me being wrong. So, I mean, that happens.
Oh my
Not
God.
very
No,
often.
I don't think so. That's
Yeah.
smart to just write it in,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
times they pick it. We did that when we were working. We just did a off-market deal, and we did the same thing where the sellers were like, well, you guys do this. Do you have a title company? We said, yep. Okay. Got it done, got it smooth. So we picked it there.
In Atlanta, it's a negotiation, just like the price, just like the closing date. We can negotiate who the closing attorney is, but I can't imagine starting a search there, because typically if pick any other person, like if you have a really good agent in a town, they're going to know the best lender that can get deals done, because they have so many transactions.
That's a lender. Yeah, that's a lender too. So, I mean, we could bounce over to the lenders in each state, but I've gotten financing all aligned, and then I've hit those like the refinance. I already own this property with no liens on it whatsoever. Bought it. I have the paperwork from a year ago, and they're like, we can't do this, but we won't release your file, and you need to pay us $600. So I think that, yeah, we can start with the realtors. We can start with the lenders. We can start with the general contractors. And the reason I started with the title company is because I've hit this even as of recently, where I took a deal and they would only close with this title company, and it turned into a 3-month process as opposed to a 45-day process because of them insisting we start with this company.
Well, and remember, Alan, my experience with the realtors is, yes, they're going to pick a lender that can do it in the time. But are they going to pick the lender that has the best rates at the time? Because the realtor doesn't super care about that even 1/4% for the buyer. They just want to know that it can get done. I've had, I think every time a realtor,
but it comes back down to what you get, what you pay for. Like, sure, you can get the cheapest closing attorney, you have problems. You can get the cheapest mortgage broker, and you're going to have problems. So I want to I would gladly pay a quarter higher if it's smooth, if it's going to close on time. There's a lot of customer service and hand holding. Like that's worth it to me. Right? I don't know.
I agree.
I shop it.
I'm distracted because I'm flashing back to your picture from your MySpace page with the cat. And I'm thinking, were you spending the money you were saving trying to do your own tasks on that professional looking photograph from MySpace? Or Dude, I mean, we can't gloss over that. And I think a retweet's coming from me and from you after this today, so everyone can see what I'm talking about. But Alan's got this MySpace picture with him and a cat. And
it's a taxidermied cat.
It is, and it's horrific. Were we spending money on that, not on good title insurance or title companies?
You're 20 and your buddy's over and has a new camera and wants to try things out.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
we'll find out the truth. Yes, we'll find out the truth behind that here after the show.
No, but like to Alan, to your point, and you're biased because you are a realtor, but yeah, the real estate agent is going to be, I mean, that's going to be your thing, probably your first one as you're looking in the different areas. I mean, it could be the lender. I guess you could start with the lender, because do you know what you can even buy? Do you know what you're approved for? Do you know your credit score, right? Is there someone who knows your financial situation who can tell you what you can actually be approved for? So maybe you do start with the lender, but I do think that a lot of people get their lenders from the realtor.
Yeah, I think ultimately it doesn't matter where you start, because if you have the best closing attorney, they're going to refer you to the best lender and the best agent. Or if you start with the agent, they're going to know the best closing attorney. If you start with the contractor, they're going to know the best property manager. If you start with the best property, like, you just need to find one person that you really, really trust, and then leverage their network and their connections.
And that's, part of what we do is paying for a mentor would be worth it in some of these cases. And I say that to people, like even a couple that I'm working with right now. They lost thousands of dollars when they tried to do it themselves. They bought a house from a flipper, couldn't get a certificate of occupancy the whole time they owned it for 14 months. And they lost thousands of dollars by doing it this way. So I agree with that. And I'd like to just say I'm not realtor loyal in either state, and having a few realtors available is always something that should be looked at, because there are realtors that are great, and then there's realtors that are phoning it in and just selling you garbage to get you out of their queue. And I want a mix of great realtors and not the ones that are just phoning it in. And I've had both over the years. So I think that should be mentioned as well.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
I
Alan,
think
how do you know? How do you know if somebody's a good realtor, like up front?
well, if I'm investing, I always say make sure that you get a realtor that is also an investor. Like that. That's key. Like why would I get a condo agent to help me sell land? Right? The same license works everywhere, but it's that way we can talk the same talk, right? And then that agent is probably going to know the best investing team that I could leverage, and also can probably get me in the Facebook groups that I need to be in. Like they're connected to a network that you're going to want to leverage. So to me, that's if you have an agent and you're just like, do you invest in properties yourself? That's key. And obviously the more properties they have, the better, because it just means more experience and probably a deeper network and a stronger network. But if a real estate agent has 2 or 3 or 4 properties, I promise you they've done the cycle of finding the best plumber. They've done the cycle, find the best, pest control guy or whatever it is. And you just save yourself so much time that way. And then here's the thing, it costs the same. Why not do that? And it honestly, it doesn't really cost you anything if you're buying, but if you're going to, the fees are worked into the purchase price, might as well use an agent that's cost the same as someone, who's maybe not interested in looking at real estate the way you look at real estate.
Yeah, and the sellers pay the realtor, so there's really no
Yeah.
reason as a buyer to not have one.
Yeah. And I'm okay with not being loyal in that, because you don't know. So you might as well leverage several realtors networks who might have off-market deals and things like that, but make sure that all those realtors that you're talking to are investors themselves. Because then you're just going to get some random person who doesn't recognize whether it's a good deal or not. You buy it, that negotiation is going to go terrible. The whole process, because they're learning with you. Like, why am I paying someone to learn on my dime? Kind of thing.
Completely agree.
But I'll say the ultimate members of the team, I think you need to have that good agent or 2 or 3 good agents that are investors. We talked about the closing attorney, and again, and the mortgage lender. We've talked about those. And again, I don't think you have to go research each individual one. Like if you find an agent or a lender that you really, really trust, and they say use this closing attorney, it's very, very difficult if, like for me, as a client, they come in and they're like, I want to use this mortgage broker. And I'm like, okay, you get to choose. I just want to tell you, this mortgage broker has a history of not closing on time. This may cause stress for you and moving trucks or whatever, but this is one that I know will close on time. I have no skin in the game. I don't get any kickbacks. I'm just trying to make this smooth for you. And sometimes they take my recommendations, sometimes they don't, and then they learn the hard way. So it's one of those things where find someone you trust and then really do trust them and put your trust in them, because this is also what happens. Let's say things go sideways and you're using the recommended people I told you to use. I have a very strong connection. I can call them at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. Go, what the hell's going on here? I need you to fix it. And they will, because they want more of my business. But if we're using your guy and I don't know this guy, and I call him, he's not going to answer my phone. He's not going to tell me anything. He'll only talk directly to you. And then it's he said, she said, and it just makes it worse and worse. And you really do have to trust someone and then follow the recommendations.
Completely agree. And it takes some trial and error. I mean, I think all of us have had those bad contractors or those bad deals where it just didn't work out how we wanted, and we learned, and we won't do that mistake again.
Well, and the trusting thing works for if you have mentors or coaches or, people helping you get into the real estate business. You need to trust them too. That's something I've done a little bit of coaching. I don't have the number of clients like you do, Tom, but where you tell people to do certain things or you make your recommendations or tell them what you would do in that situation. And then over and over and over, they don't.
Yeah.
So I'm
That
like, stop
happens.
asking me.
Someone named Honey just texted me and they're trying to buy my duplex. And she says she's been urgently trying to get a hold of me. So I don't know if I should like peace out and contact Honey
Yeah.
back or
I'm sure
if
we've
I
all
should
gotten
continue.
those.
Can you
since we've been on this.
do a voice call so we can listen in?
I don't even want to have a conversation with Honey. She's going to
Okay.
be sitting there waiting for me to not respond. And I don't want to disappoint her by responding. So I'm going to stick with the live stream.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sell that duplex.
Yeah.
And it's in my LLC now, but it was the original that still had my name on it. So that's the one that I get harassed constantly because it was in my name. And
Every single time I get a phone call and it's not in my contacts, it's, hey, are you interested in selling this property? Like I just know that's what
it's draining.
it must
Mine are
work.
usually Airbnb guests. They can't find their emails from me.
The 5 that you've already sent to them.
Yeah.
The ones that can't get. Yeah. I am not looking forward to that.
It's not that bad.
Okay. So we talked realtor, we talked lender, we talked title company. We haven't really talked much on contractors, but having a really strong team to back you up. So when you get to that house and you have a messed up foundation or you have a broken HVAC or you need a new roof, I think that's key in both of our markets to have someone that you can lean on and know that when you hand them money, they're not going to disappear with it. And I have really, I think I have the perfect team in both states, but not together. So I'm really weak in Texas on some things, and then I'm really weak in Ohio on other things. And like I had back in 2020, I had a contractor take my money and do half the work. And then I gave him the second draw and he ghosted me and took that $3,500. So that was, even after 15 years of doing it at that point, I'm still vulnerable to that because I don't have a fantastic electrician up in Ohio. Actually, I have a solid guy now, but I didn't at the time.
I'm the same way. It's I'm still learning. If I'm in a new market, it's finding that new contractor. I had a contractor who would, send him up on the roof, and then he would find new problems. Oh, by the way, I found this other hole. Okay, and then while I was fixing this hole, I found this other hole, and the siding. Oh, okay, fine, you're there. And what I realized is he was creating the holes just so to create more and more work, and then it was just problem.
To add the bill.
Yeah, and then I called him on it, and then he ghosted me and took all the money and left me with a bunch of holes for someone else to fix. So yeah.
Have you guys had contractors that were good for a long time and then fell off the map?
Typically this is what happens is if you've got a good one, they are also recognized as being good by other people, and then they fall off the map because they get bigger and bigger jobs. So I've seen contractors grow from doing, $500 repair jobs to, now they're doing 5,000, and they'll still kind of help me with the $500 stuff. And then all of a sudden they're only taking projects that are $100,000 or more. So that's how I've lost contractors is just, Alan, I'm happy to help you or your clients, but I'm only, my minimum is 100,000, at this point. And, 2 years ago, they were only doing patch ups and drywall.
Yeah, but some of them are coming back out of the woodwork now that things are slowing down. They're texting me, "Hey, you got anything?"
Yeah. It's that too. Yeah.
So it and I stick with the ones that stick with me. Even when they're making the big bucks, and I respect that and I get it because I would want to make the 100,000 versus the 5,000. But it goes in waves, and right now it's slowing down a little bit. So my tile guy, my stone guy, who are doing all these new builds who have slowed down now, are like, "What do you got for me? What can we do?" And they do great work, so I'll work with them again. But it's one of those that know who's on your team when they're willing to work with you, even when it's, when it's busy, and find you something that's going to work. Like this house that I'm doing in Dallas, I'm just like, I don't have hardly any money for this countertop. What do you got? And he's like, this is left over in my shop. Can we make this work? I texted Lauren when he sent me the picture of the stone. I'm like, what do you think? And I'm like, what do you think of this price? And she's like, yep, I think you can make it work. And that's what we did. And that's, who I want on my team, who understands, I do have some money to get it done, but I don't have that
Right.
$10,000 budget for this quartz that's, going to be stained by my tenant in a week.
Right. When you're doing the renos, Tom, are you doing like a GC and then everything like was running through like the subcontractors through the general contractor?
So I do have one main one who does the bulk of it, but I project manage everything in Texas and Ohio myself. Because like I'll get the tile guy, I'll get the granite guy. Like the main guy knows pretty much where my other strengths are, so he knows he doesn't have to touch anything in here or do this or do that, because I've got other people that'll do the landscaping, other people that'll do the trash haul out and that. So that's kind of how I run it. But yeah, I project manage. I'm super, and I have a client who closed in Ohio, and he's leaving too much, in my opinion, to the general contractor, and he's getting the uglier finishes because they're going in and picking out the cheapest faucet, and I learned really quick that when you buy that $24 faucet, you're going to be replacing that $24 faucet in a year, and I'd rather buy the $79 basic Moen one that comes with a warranty, because I know that Moen has replaced stuff when I've had issues with them, like without a bat, mailing it to me, and I'm going to stand behind the ones that. So I think that not having your hand in it at all can be dangerous when you just get with what the contractors are picking out, unless you spec it out particular to them. But I typically deliver the products that I know are going to last the longest by trial and error, because I did buy the $24 faucet when I was starting, and I replaced it a year later. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to buy another plastic one because it looks nice, but it's garbage. I
use Moen too. The thing that I think people should understand is like general contractors, they have like a markup on what all the subcontractors are, but they also have negotiated rates with those subcontractors. So in a lot of ways, I don't feel like my GC, it's costing me almost nothing to have him on it, because they do so much work with him that he pays them less than I would in these one-off situations. And he knows really good guys, and he actually is pretty good about like, giving me their numbers for small repairs and stuff later when it's not part of like a big deal, and not putting his markup on it.
Completely agree.
Yeah, seems like the theme seems to be you get what you pay for, and paying more, even though we're all frugal in nature and want to be cost conscious. But yeah, the upgrading of the plumbing and or the team that you work with is important. But
it makes or breaks you if you don't have people in place. That's why I lost all that money in Cleveland, because I just didn't have a realtor that I could lean on. I didn't have a lawyer that could do an eviction for me. I didn't have any of that stuff. And even the person I was paying to check on the house wasn't checking on the house. So it was in disarray when I got there. So if you don't build up these people and stalk these Facebook groups and check out, the multiple different forums, then you end up losing money.
I think some people might take this and this information and say, okay, I'm not even going to look at properties. I need to first go find my title attorney. I need to go find an agent. I find a broker. And I don't think that's true. I think you need to go.
Yeah. You need to know what you're looking for. You need to know what your budget is. You need to, I think the lender is a smart way to start. So you're not looking at $400,000 houses when you're approved for 250. Yeah. If you're in that 250 range, you're going to see how quickly they go. So I think, we don't need to skip ahead to that, but I think that when you're setting it up, we need to lay the foundation.
Well, I just don't know. Like, if you're talking to a GC, what do you even tell them what you like? You're going to interview a GC for a job, for a house you might buy. Like, how do you even have that? I don't know how you even have that conversation.
Yeah, no one's going to take you seriously. No one's going to. You're wasting their time. Wait till you actually have a house, and then start.
I mean, I'll bring in a GC when I'm under contract, not beforehand. But when I'm under contract, I'm like, what are we doing? What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah,
and start building my quotes.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
and they're
I
going to
do.
take you more seriously if you're under contract and past due diligence than they are pre-due diligence, because they go on quotes all the time and then they don't buy the house and it's just a waste of
Right.
time for them. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Completely agree.
Also something I was going to say is like, yes, you get what you pay for, but don't assume that you should just go with the most expensive dude
Yeah.
and it's going to be okay.
100%. Yeah.
Because there is a thing where it's like, and that, I'm getting to that point now where it's like we have the multiple places and these people know it and they're like, I don't want them getting this idea like, oh, these people are rich and they can afford it. They can afford, like, trust me, this is all very expensive and I actually have very little cash
Yeah.
at any given moment. So,
Yes.
do we have the cash flow? Maybe. But I don't want people to start gouging me because of the, oh, they have a lot of properties. They must have a lot of money thing. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind too, as well.
Yeah. No, that's
Completely
important.
agree.
Yeah. All right. What other team building things do we need? I think it comes down to networking. I think that's the thing, networking, whether you're doing it online or in person.
One that we haven't, even the electrician that I have in Toledo now, I found
Yeah.
because they were a neighbor of one of my houses and their truck was in the driveway. And I think that's one thing that, if you're an out of state landlord, when I'm there, I go and knock on the neighbor's door and introduce myself. And I usually send a holiday card around Christmas and throw a $25 or a $50 gift card in there.
Oh, wow.
And I say, I'm renting this next door. If you have issues, call or text me that you aren't able to get resolved. And it kind of plants the seed and the gift card just keeps it in their mind.
Yeah.
And that's how, the electrician that I have was a neighbor at one of the houses that I had owned years ago. And we just, I'd send him cards and they moved a couple years back. And I just contacted him this year. I'm like, I'm desperate for an electrician who's not going to take my money and can actually get the job done. You want to do anything? Or do you have time to do anything? And he's like, maybe I'll get to it in a week or two. And then the next day he's like, all right, I drove over here. It's done. It's 800. It's just one of those that don't ignore right around you, because I want some, and Lauren has that when she has the one long term and the one short term. So they're going to tell you if that short term's over there having a party.
Yep.
So plant that seed and build up just, I want the neighbors to keep an eye on it. So if my property manager isn't doing it and my tenants aren't keeping an eye on it, I've got this third set of eyes because I can't be there to check it. I don't know if the lawn's getting done. And I do have some annoying ones that'll be like, are you going to get your lawn mowed? And I'm like, it's been 10 days. They're coming tomorrow. Calm down. And then I have some that have helped me out in sticky situations where I've got this happening or that happening or a fire. I remember when I had not my tenant, but the neighbor contacting me about a fire that was happening. So then I text the tenant. I'm like, are you home? And he's like, no, he was moving out that weekend. So he was actually already half moved out and at the new place. But yeah, I think that having someone in that local area to keep an eye on it for you that you're not paying necessarily, but they live next door or they're in that neighborhood is key too.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Alan and Tom, you have a property manager, but like I don't have property management. So you could definitely speak to that. And then I can speak to having, the cleaner also.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I don't do, I would do what Tom just said if I did not have a property manager. But to me, it's property manager. That's what I'm paying for, is you deal with the headaches, whether it's a neighbor complaining or.
So what do you do when the property manager doesn't do that? Because I have 2 with a property manager up in Ohio, and then I have 12 with a contract employee that works for me. And the 12 that are with the contract employee gets much better service than the 2 that are with the property manager. So
all my properties have a sign that say, this is the property manager, their name and number. And so I never am aware of it. Like if anything happens, that property manager gets bad reviews online and that gets their attention. Like they're trying to run a business and it never, not never. Occasionally I'll run into like a neighbor who's like, hey, your tenants are using my dumpster instead of your dumpster. And I've told your property manager multiple times. And I'm like, okay, let me reach out to him. Like it's things like that, but he's already contacted the property manager multiple times. I trust my property manager that they're trying to handle it and they're trying to figure out what tenant's doing it. And they're sending out messages and, it's one of those things where that's what I pay for is I don't want to be pulled into the drama, and let me focus on buying more properties. And so they don't want drama either, and they want me to be successful so I can buy more properties that they can manage. So that's sort of how I handle it. Yeah.
Go Tom.
Go Tom. Thanks, Leo Hernandez from Facebook. If you guys want to leave comments, we are live streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So go there and leave your comments. We're also live streaming on Twitter. However, we cannot see your comments, unfortunately.
So
on Twitter.
Leo's actually a past client of mine, and we just got his first rental under contract today. So that's exciting for him. And
Yeah, go Leo.
Yeah, go Leo.
Yes, it's under contract. It's fresh ink, and they've got to drop the check off to the title company. But I think it's going to be a great little property for them right outside of Dallas.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, exciting.
So should I
Progress.
talk about the cleaner?
Yeah. Let's hear the cleaner.
So I have primarily short-term rentals. I'm opening my 10th, and then I have 3 long-term rentals, and then my primary here. And as such, my team is in some ways different. I certainly have the cleaner. The cleaner is really number one when you're in short-term rentals, because they need to be a very special person. They can't just be someone who cleans people's houses. I've had this girl who wanted to work for me, but needed tons of notice and scheduling. And that's just when you're doing short-term rentals and you're cleaning these Airbnbs and things, that's a luxury you're just not going to have. I try not to do day of check. I don't allow instant book for day of check-ins, so that I can check hey, they always are supposed to clean on checkout, but if they haven't gotten there yet or whatever, double check that those things are clean, and I can check directly with them, or I can check the cameras and the locks to see if they've been there. And that's a pretty good indication it was probably clean, because I don't think they walked in there and walked back out.
You never know.
You never know, but that hasn't happened yet. That's been a good substitute. Right. And then I try not to do a lot of one night stays. So they have a little bit of notice, but sometimes hey, they wanted to know if they can check out at noon. Is that okay? So there's a little bit of not only on certain days, but the times within the day. It can be very dynamic. So it's got to be a special person who is willing to work with that kind of a schedule. It also needs to be the kind of person I like to have local people do it versus a company, because the local people are going to know, okay, that bunny wasn't there last time. Somebody left this bunny, real example. Or let's see, the tablecloth.
Did you
one of my
keep the
tablecloths.
bunny?
Yeah, the bunny is actually, it's still there. Yeah.
It's still there?
It's still
Okay.
there. Yeah.
And
nobody
it's
asked for it back.
basically your bunny now?
It's my bunny now.
I love it.
It's a tip.
Yeah, a stuffed bunny. Yeah. So more stuff has shown up than has left. I will say that. But recently a blow dryer disappeared. I don't really blame the guests. I think they probably were just packing, or maybe also I could see maybe the other significant other just maybe helping them pack and just throwing it, being this, she uses blow dryers, or he uses blow dryers, throw it in there,
I
But
don't.
so the blow dryer went missing, and
Nothing to blow dry.
table.
Maybe my beard.
I have so much hair. But the blow dryer goes missing, tablecloth goes missing, and then they know and they can alert me. If this is a service, they're not, maybe they don't know I leave blow dryers, maybe they don't know that table had a tablecloth, stuff like that. So they need to have not only the ability to have this flexible schedule, but also have this ability to look at it from the lens of a guest, from the lens of a cleaner, and from the lens of mine, the owner lens. Is anything damaged? Is anything missing? Is anything broken? And so it really needs to be a very special person. And as
I
you're
sold
interviewing,
blow dryers during COVID. I'm sorry to interrupt, Lauren, but
No.
I have to tell you about
this
my
is an
blow
important
dryer.
story. Yes.
No,
Yeah.
it's-
So
here for that.
I do a lot of this with the wholesaler that I work with down here. He gets a lot from certain brands, and he had all these blow dryers, and he's like, I'll sell you this pallet of good shit if you take these blow dryers. And they were the boxes were all dented. That's why he had them, because they were all wholesaled off. So I moved them very quickly. I think I paid $7, and then I'm like, well, these are dented boxes, nobody's going to want them. And I think I sold them for $10 to try and move them out. And now looking back on it, I wish I would have saved, because I think that they're $40 or $50 for these blow dryers, and I don't have any. So
Yeah, even the cheap ones are $20 or $25, but
That's
I
what
pick
I'm
them
saying.
up at thrift stores and yard sales for $2, and I just collect them. I just
Yeah.
have a pile. I have a pile of blow dryers. I do the same with books, any super cheap books or free books I collect, or board games, $1 or $2 board
that's
games. I
smart.
don't pay more than that. And then
Yeah.
they go on a shelf. And then when I open a new unit or something gets damaged, oh, the Monopoly's missing pieces, the Sorry's missing pieces,
Yeah.
I switch them out. So I do collect stuff like that on baking dishes and stuff, baking dishes, wine glasses.
That's
I
smart.
I buy all of those things as I see them and I put them in the shed.
I love it.
But yeah, so I think that covers the cleaner. Just make sure you're interviewing your cleaners. I wouldn't do the have them clean and see how you like it thing. Interview them, ask for references from other short-term rental owners. I have been that. Sorry if you can hear the security cameras are going in. I have been that reference for my cleaner in other times too, where people have called me and asked me, what do you think? And then I send them all my guides so that they know how to run their business.
Yeah, I try and use your guide for my cleaner, and he blatantly ignores it and says he never got it. And then I send it again, and he says the same thing. But in general, we're making progress. Feedback is well received,
Yeah.
and
Right.
flexibility is key, because I think he was scheduled to go in Tuesday, got there Tuesday, and they were working in the house tracking stuff in and out. So I think he went back yesterday and got it cleaned properly before the check-in. So I think that the cleaner is huge in
Right.
any market, and even in when you're doing long terms and you need it cleaned out to look good so you can rent it and take pictures, you need to have that cleaner as well.
Yeah. And I use my cleaners for those situations too. But the feedback is huge. I had a cleaner one time, it was just very defensive, would insist they did that thing. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. There's dust here. It feels like being gaslit, because you're like, I'm
Right.
looking at it with my own eyeballs.
Right. And I'm like,
here,
there's pubes in the tub. Okay, I get that you did it, but there's still
hair.
pubes there.
That's
Yeah.
the
So
problem. Yeah, so that's a big deal, being able to take feedback. And so as you're doing these interviews, trying to find a cleaner, you kind of have your questions. And I think you should have questions that you ask a property manager, questions that you ask a realtor, an interview. Basically, you're interviewing people to basically work for you. And I would treat finding your team that way across the board, and interview multiple people and get
100%.
references.
100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's, I think, our time. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We talk every Thursday. Send your questions in. Follow us. Ask your questions live. I'm Alan Corey, Real Estate Maxi.
I'm Tom Brickman, the Frugal Gay, and I'm going to tease next week because we got a really fun one coming. It's Real Estate Horror Stories next week, and that is always one of my favorite, telling crazy, wild stories. And I got a fresh one that I haven't shared yet, so I can't wait to share that next week.
Yeah,
So
that's
I'm
gonna
Tom
be fun.
Brickman, the Frugal Gay, and
I'm Lauren from Adulting is Easy. See you guys next
Awesome.
week.
see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye, Paul.